What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Cover 2 Recap. I'm Edward Lewis, publisher, BruinSportsport.com. This is Joey Kaufman, the UCLA beat writer for the OC Register. We're here today in a steamy San Bernardino heat where UCLA just wrapped up its morning practice of day 6. Joey, let's get into news and notes. We haven't been on the Cover 2 Recap for a couple of days, so let's get a couple of rehash a couple of those notes. First and foremost, Cordell Broadus basically quit the team. Jim Mora, in a statement yesterday, said he wants to pursue film. And then today, Chris Clark was out in a jersey and just shorts, and Morris said he'll be back next week and he won't redshirt him. Give me your take on both those, topics of the day.
The Cordell news, I guess, shouldn't take anybody totally by surprise, just because I think there were always whispers about how interested he was in football. I mean, you heard stories about when Cordell was 6 years old and his Snoop had to give him $2,000 to start playing football. I mean, that stuff always kind of lingered, and you wonder how serious he was. And he's a kid with other options too. I mean, how many in Morris' statement yesterday, he brought up his film company. I mean, how many players are going to quit a team and the coach is going to release a statement where he's going to go pursue his own film company? So, I mean, he's got other interests, and that's something he's going to pursue. The Chris Clark thing is interesting just because Miles is a tricky deal because you got to build up your strength back, but Morris seemed pretty confident that he'd be playing in Virginia and definitely would not be redshirting.
Yeah, he lost a lot of weight. If you had seen him on signing day back in February, he was probably 250, and if you see him today out here, he's probably about 220. But I've been hearing, that was even prior to the mono, he lost that weight. He wanted to just trim down. He said, I've heard he said he thought he was a little bit fat. So that's that. He's supposed to be coming back on Monday. So we'll see, how he looks in pads, I guess, and his first action out at camp here. And
I think if he isn't 250, it's not the end of the world because UCLA doesn't use a tight end like Stanford's going to use a tight end. They're going to use him at that kind of wide position. And he's going to be a little further out from the line. So if you probably don't want to be 220. You might want to be a little bigger, but if he's not 250, I don't think it's that big a deal.
Ish Adams continued to sit out with an ankle injury today. Tavita Halililo missed practice this morning with some sort of heat issue, some sort of head issue. We're not too sure. Jim Moore didn't comment on it, but those are really the only two injuries of camp so far. And it's been, I know it's only been a week and only 1 day in pads, but they're 7 days away from this thing getting out home free. And that's always been an issue with this camp is is it too hot? Do they go too hard? And so far 7 days so good for UCLA.
Yeah, there hasn't been any kind of serious injuries. It hasn't really even been that hot until yesterday when it got to 106. Monday was 84. I think Tuesday was 91, and then Wednesday kind of got in the high 90s. There's usually a decent breeze here. It's not as bad as I think it's kind of made out to be, or at least it has been in the past.
Let's get into quarterback battle. I don't think anything has really changed since the last time we did the Cover 2 Recap. It's still Josh Rosen versus Jerry Neuheisel versus Mike Faithful. I think we're still on the same page here that Josh Rosen's probably getting the nod over the other two. But explain to me what you've seen the last couple of days from Josh, Jerry, and Mike, and what you think of it all.
Basically, the most notable thing is Rosen took first-team reps on Thursday and got a long look with the first team in half pads, and he didn't look great on his first throw. He dropped back, he threw it into double coverage, and it was intercepted by Tahan Goodman. And it was a throw that never should have been made. It was a bad look. But he got a little better. He still finished. I had him down as 12 of 21 passing. He had a lot of shaky throws, but he had some nice throws as well that you usually see with him. You'll have some kind of freshman mistakes, but then he'll always kind of come back with a nice throw. And I think at one point, even Thursday, it wasn't his best day, but at one point he fired off 4 straight completions. And then Friday he worked with the second team, and he took a step forward Friday. I think he was 6 of 11. I had him down. Was pretty good, much better, kind of crisper, and every day you watch him throw, he'll have a couple throws where you kind of understand why he's the 5-star. One that stood out yesterday was he threw a touchdown pass, which was nice, but here's a more ordinary throw was the ball was started on the left hash, and it's a quick 3-step drop, and Darren Andrews is running a kind of an out route, maybe 7 yards on the opposite side, and it's probably about, 25 yards maybe across from where Josh is positioned to where Darren's going to be on the other side of the field, and he rifles it in there really quickly. So everybody talks about his arm strength is giving them like a vertical advantage down the field, but it's also going to be something I think you'll see in more short yardage type of plays where you're just trying to get the ball out quickly.
I think we're at the point where now it's if there hasn't been any separation, you have to go with Josh. And that's what we were talking about, I remember 3 or 4 years ago with Brett Hundley. When he was battling with Richard Breho and Kevin Prince out here, they were basically even. And at that point, it's like, well, why don't we just go with the freshman and build the next 3 years in a dynasty mode? So I think that's where we're headed right now. I mean, I think it would take a big class from Josh to really have anything different happen.
One thing I would like to see is I feel like it's really tough to rep 3 guys into practice. I mean, this morning's practice was just like an hour and a half, and it was pretty much a typical walkthrough, but Faithful didn't even get any reps in it. And yesterday, they tried to divide up 3, and nobody's getting a really long look. I mean, yesterday, Rosen threw the ball 11 times. If he's going to be your starter at some point, I feel like you don't want a guy just throwing 11 times in a practice.
Let's get into top performers. Let's wrap up the Cover 2 recap with top performers. I had one from this morning, and it's kind of cheating because this morning was really a walkthrough and kind of a 3/4 speed day. But Miles Jack took kick returns again, and it's just so special to see that. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, this guy's 230, 240 pounds. He's a linebacker. He does this, and this. But he's out there with Jordan Lasley. There's Ishmael Adams. I mean, there's all kinds of these speedy little slot guys, and yet he's running better, stronger, faster than them in kick returns. So I think that's really impressive, and I think you're going to see a lot of that this season. I don't think this is some sort of gimmick. I think they really have intentions of putting Miles Jack back there and kick returning this season.
I've always felt it was a good idea, because if you look at the number of kick returns that Ish had last year, you're talking about 1 to 2 touches a game. So you're not talking about a physical demanding. I mean, that is a high-risk play where somebody could take your knee out. But in terms of just a cumulative amount of touches, it's not a ton. And I think UCLA needs to improve on kick return last year. They were last year in the conference in kick return yardage. And whoever's going to be the starter, you want them to have shorter fields, because it's going to be a first-time starter. It's likely going to be a freshman, and you want some shorter fields to work with. So if you could get guys who are returning the ball up to the 45-yard line, or even starting drives that early, that I think would be a big help.
Give me another top performer, not necessarily from today, because today was a little bit of a walkthrough, but in the last day or two.
Well, yesterday, Darren Andrews seemed to catch everything that was thrown his way. I mean, the post route from Rosen, an out route from Rosen, he seemed like Rosen's favorite target, and receiver position is kind of stacked and pretty deep, but, I mean, he's a guy that really you kind of see the depth, because he was out there running good routes and catching everything.
That'll wrap up our coverage from day 6. As always, you can follow my coverage of UCLA on Twitter at Edward_Lewis and at BruinSportsport.com. You can follow Joey's coverage on Twitter at Joey R. Kaufman and at OCRegister.com. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in to the Cover 2 Recap.